And this episode now is no, because it's still showing. It's just queuing up, but we're probably live already. So let's do this. Hello, God bless and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty. You're watching the Godlogic Project, where we discuss maintaining a Christian worldview in a post-Christian America. So we discuss topics that you are discussing or living through anyway, and we try to do it with from a Christian perspective. That's where I come in. Today we're going to talk about addiction, which is a common subject here on the Godlogic Project. We're going to put a different spin on it for Mother's Day, and we're going to talk about a mother's perspective on addiction, having had a son go through the addiction process and now a leader in the recovery community. I'm going to introduce you to my guests in a second, but first, the intro music.
I'm already getting emotional.
Hello, God bless and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this
Natural.
is the Godlogic Project.
First time I came on, I was kind of...
I'm Kevin Haggerty. That's Mike Houston telling me to shut up. In the studio today is a face you probably recognize. I'm going to go to the other end of the table first. Mike, introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? My name is Mike Gasparino, Pasco County native. I'm on which camera? Where am I looking?
You're looking here.
Got it. Pasco County native. Lived here for about 20 years. In recovery from crippling opiate addiction, alcohol, benzos. I now currently work for a treatment center. I'm here to help. I'm here to talk. I've been sober now about 2.5 years. I just want to be a resource, being that I'm from this area, from the Pasco County area. I do whatever I can to help over here. And today we got my mom coming on live with us today. I'm really looking forward to it's kind of a Mother's Day present, if you will.
Yeah. So we're gonna get mom. We're gonna have mom have her very own podcast for Mother's Day. Not a lot of moms could say they have that. Now, Mike has been on the show a couple of times, and he's being humble, but he is a real hustler. He and I talk once a week or twice a week at least, trying to get somebody or help somebody get services in the recovery community. We're going to talk about some of that towards the end of the show. But first, let me introduce you to our guest of honor, Mike's mom. Mike's mom, how are you? Hold on.
I'm great. I love it.
All right, everybody loves Mike's mom. Mike,
now, where should I be looking? That way?
Yeah, your camera's in front of you.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm Paula Gasparino, and I'm Michael's mom.
Well, welcome. And we're going to talk today. Now, I know Mike's story. I know he's been on the show a couple times with our buddy Steve. We're partners in the recovery community on a pretty regular basis. We're talking to each other. And so we sometimes forget in the recovery community what people besides the addict go through, right? So here now, when we're under quarantine, it's become very difficult for people, especially people new in recovery, that they have to stay alone. The last thing you want to do with an addict is have them stay alone. So it's been a very rough couple of months. We got hit personally in our family. My son's mother OD'd a week ago Monday, a week ago tomorrow, and so it's been a real rough week, and so. We know that our work is not fruitless, but it's sometimes we forget, right? So we keep our head down, we keep hustling, and we don't realize the people we hurt when we were active in addiction, but more importantly, what those people that loved us through addiction feel now. How happy are they now? It had to be great to see Mike go through this and come out the other side. So we're going to do this in kind of a almost chronological order, Paula. What was it like? What happened? And then what it's like now. So Mike, I'm guessing it must have sucked to be his mom. Is that true? Is that fair to say?
No. First, I want to apologize to your audience.
You're crying already?
I am a very emotional person. Now, I'll get through this. I think once I get through the initial, oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here to share my story, my journey, having a child that is an addict, the things that we went through. I wouldn't change anything because seeing the outcome today, I don't know if Michael would be where he is today if he didn't live through what he went through. There are things that maybe as we were living through it, I may have changed, but knowing what I know now, I don't think I would. But Michael, I forget how old he was, but he came up to me. I have a home office, and he came up to me one day and said, "Mom, I need help." And I was like, "What's up, Michael?" He goes, "Well," and then he told me, I started taking these pills, and I can't stop, and I need help. Now, Michael was still, I think, in high school, and all I could do was, oh my gosh, all right. Within an hour, I had him at the doctor's office. I immediately called our doctor, and they got us in, and they put Michael in the hospital to medically, get him through a detox, and, that was good. I remember the doctors, nurses coming up to me and saying, you don't know how lucky you are that your son trusted you enough to come to you and tell you that, because we see this every day, and the fact that he reached out to you, he's got a chance. And of course, I was totally taken off guard. I had no idea. You think you know your kids. You think you know what's going on in their lives. My husband and I, we were very involved in our children's lives, from room mother to Little League coach to soccer mom to den mother. We're very, very, very involved in our children's lives, and this was quite a shock to us. We kept it a secret. We didn't share our secret. It was many years before even my own family knew what we were dealing with. Unfortunately, that first time that the doctor put Michael in the hospital and we went through a quick little detox and brought him home, was not the end of his story, because he continued to use, and I didn't know it. And 15 years later, we suffered a lot for 15 years. But I am grateful that Michael did feel that he could come to me. And not a lot of kids think that they can do that. So parents, make sure your children know that it doesn't matter what they say and what they do and what is wrong, that they can come to you. And again, I'm sorry. I'm reliving this. I'm trying to not be emotional. It's really hard to have your child that you love more than anything, and I couldn't fix it. Michael could fall off his bike, and I could put a Band-Aid on it and kiss it. I could, he'd be sick with the flu, and I could give him the medicine and fix it. Heck, I think he even would have problems with girls and have broken hearts, and I could fix those. This was not something that I could fix, and it took me a really long time to learn that. And it was only then when I realized that I could not fix my son, and I had to let go and just concentrate on taking care of me, that Michael's road to recovery became better for him, because I tried to fix Michael, and you just can't do it. We can't. Addiction is too powerful. It's too strong, and we're one of the lucky ones. My son has seen many of his friends be buried. We've been to many funerals. It's really a sad thing that so many young people and older people too have died because of this, or their lives are ruined. My life as the mother of an addict, I may not have had the chemicals in my body destroying my body, but the stress I lived through destroyed my body too. I suffered my own, I didn't sleep. Put on weight. I certainly probably drank more alcohol than I should have. Ate more. Again, I would cry myself to sleep at night, and that was if I was lucky enough to fall asleep. It was really tough. But parents and people who love addicts, there's hope. If your loved one is still alive, there is hope. But they're not going to be able to do it. You can't fix it. Only they can fix it. And they need to come to that place. And all I can suggest is that they know that there's a higher power that they're going to need to fix this. The drug addiction, alcoholism, it is too strong for anyone to do on their own. You need to have spiritual guidance, and whoever you pray to, but you need that. I mean, we're Christians, so, we believe in, Jesus and God and all that, and I think that really helped my family get through this. And we needed that. We still need it today, and I don't know that I would, knowing where Michael is today, I wouldn't change anything, because Michael needed to live the crappy life he lived being an addict for 15 years. That was his college. That was his education, because God had a plan for my son. I used to pray to God, go ahead, take him. He's yours now. He's dying. I lost him a long time ago. Just let him die. I was over it. God had other plans for Michael, and this time God's answer to my prayer was no.
Let's go to Michael, and we'll get a good picture, Mike, of how did you at such a young age get involved in addiction, and then what we know the pain it caused. I mean, I can only imagine still the pain my family went through watching me. So tell your story about. Sure. If you're a kid in high school, how do you begin to become addicted to opiates?
As she was speaking, what comes to my mind is my mother and father raised me almost to a T on how well you could raise a child. Right? Cub Scouts, Little League Baseball, decent grades, always there, taking me to birthday parties, and I lived a really good suburban childhood, right? How did I end up a crippling drug addict, right? By no fault hers, by no fault my dad's, 100% my fault, right? This is the way it went. Started with a little bit of pot, started with a little bit of alcohol. Next thing you know, she just told you the story. I was about 18, and when I asked her for help, but it started. I remember the first time I ever smoked pot, right after a high school baseball game, right? And I wanted to fit in. All the guys were going after the game, and we're all going to go smoke a little bit of pot, in someone's backyard. And I was like, okay, cool. That's what all the cool guys are doing. I want to be cool,
Yeah.
Smoke some pot, right? Harmless. A lot of people can smoke pot nowadays, right? But for an alcoholic and a drug addict like me, it started something. Something clicked, because I remember that night, my buddy Brandon, okay, he is not a drug addict, okay, but he smoked pot with me that night. He's got his own chiropractic practice, and he has a life and a family and everything. Whereas that night when he dropped me off in my mom's driveway, and I looked at Brandon, who was also been smoking pot that night, and I said, Brandon, when are we going to do that again? And Brandon looked at me like, dude, I don't know, maybe next weekend or something. But the alcoholic drug addict mind of mine was, I need to do that
today.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
I need to do that as soon as we wake up again, And the same thing with alcohol. First time I ever really got drunk, she'll remember this, is in her backyard on our trampoline. Me and three of my buddies who came over after getting off the bus brought a bicycle bottle, the ones that go on the bicycles, full of a bunch of liquor that he had stolen out of his dad's cabinet. And we sat on the trampoline for a couple hours until she got home, and we just drank, and they got hammered. I did too, but I didn't show it as well. I don't think you really remember me being drunk. I think you remember Forrest and the other guys, Brian Beeling, who went down the street, and I kind of played it off. Whereas I think Forrest passed out. Do you remember this, on his bicycle on the way home? And I think you found him. And I think his mom was kind of yelling at you, what did you let my son do? And meanwhile, you're like, well, my son's fine. Meanwhile, I was buzzing out of my mind at the house, but I was, kind of able to get away with it. So those are my first experiences with alcohol and marijuana.
And how old would you say you were then?
Mid-teens, 15, 16-ish, 14.
So, all right. So it seems to me already, the thing that's gone through my head a couple of times already is that addiction is not a respecter of persons. So it doesn't. We tend to think of addicts with people with broken homes, unsupervised. I mean, I was kind of let go to do whatever I wanted, so I'd be the kid you'd expect to get in trouble, right? But Michael wouldn't have been. But you figure broken homes, lower socioeconomic class living, and but this, especially now with opiates, this is so available there is nobody. There's nobody that won't be or can't be touched by this, right? So I had a call from a lady who was on the show, she had the Narcan a year ago, her son back to life over an opiate overdose, and so I got kind of involved in that situation as much as I could, and she texted me 2 weeks ago that he had OD'd again, and she didn't have Narcan and had to CPR him, and he made it. He had a pulse when they left there, and when the ambulance took him, and he was awake in the hospital the next day. But this is not somebody that is that lacks for anything, right? So it wasn't like they had no hope in their lives, so they turned to drugs, like you would stereotypically think of. In this case, it was similar to yours. This is a well-raised kid, educated parents, hardworking parents, and I don't think that once you start that, it's that easy to stop, and that's I think the danger of this. So I've never, in my position in life, I probably wouldn't hear a good opiate story, right? But I've never heard a good OxyContin story. So I know a lot of contractors that I used to make a lot of money with. They would have back surgery, so that I wouldn't work with them for a while, and I'd see them a year later in 7-Eleven bumming money for cigarettes, and I don't even recognize them. They're so thin and shot out. And these are guys that, I mean, I was making six figures. They were doing better than me. They had houses on the water and everything else. And so it is not a respecter of persons. Addiction of alcohol or drugs or anything, we have to get past the stigma that only happens to bad parents or bad kids. I was the stereotypical bad kid, right? Everybody knew I was a bad kid, so it should have happened to me. Not the case with Mike, right? So tell me, how hard is it to, I mean, when you come to the realization, Paula, that addiction has sunk its claws into your son, it's got to be quite a process of getting from point A to point B. So I would imagine there's some denial in the beginning until you begin to wrap your head around and realize you need to make some kind of plan to get through this, right? And the realization that you're not powerful enough to stop this from happening, right? It's got to be devastating. And I would tell you, by the way, that God does have a plan for Mike. I've known him for a year or so now, and I mean, he is uniquely qualified to help people where PhDs and lab coats would never be able to help. So you should be proud of that. Now, the idea of telling your mom that you're addicted would never occur to me, right? So I just went on and on and on. But it's a powerful testimony to your relationship with your son that he was even able to tell you that. I hope my young kids can do that one day, or I hope they never have to, but I hope they would feel comfortable enough doing that, and I suspect they would. I hope so anyway. So when you first hear something like that, do you feel alone? Do you feel like you're the only one in the world going through this? What happens to a parent when they first hear something like there's a confession of addiction, or they first find out their son is addicted?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I felt alone. You know, I'm lucky that, you know, I have my husband, and we were on this journey together. I think we were just more shocked because, like you said, we're a normal family. We're an intact family. You know, his dad's not in prison. I'm not a prostitute. We're not doing things we shouldn't be doing. We don't let our kids run wild. You know, how did this happen?
No drugs and alcohol, really? No problems in your parenting?
As a matter of fact, his father hasn't had a drink like in 35 years ago, and only because he chose not to. The day Michael was born, he
don't you hate people like that, Mike? They just choose not to and stop.
Kevin, you know what's funny? Real quick, I'm just going to interrupt. My dad, he'll always tell you the story that the day you were born, I quit drinking, right? And his reasons were to make sure there's always a sober parent and to set a good example, right?
Right.
Well, we see how that worked. You set a good example, and, I chose to go the other direction.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, your father might have stopped drinking the day you were born. I think that's when I started.
Yeah.
No, not really.
I've known him a year, and I've been thinking about drinking the whole year.
Yeah.
If that tells you anything.
Yeah. No, so, anyway, we were, but we kept it as a secret. I didn't share this with anybody. I think eventually we told my husband's parents. They lived right here in Newport Richey. They were very close to, Michael. So they knew, and probably Larry's sister. But my family, I don't think I let them know for a couple of years because, who brags about this?
Yeah. Did you go to Al-Anon? Did you seek out other parents
I
that
did.
were
I did.
struggling with
I
this?
did that. I went to my own private therapy sessions. And it's crazy because there were many times over the 15 years of Michael being an addict and dealing with this, I saw many therapists. But it's kind of sad when you're sitting in the office of a therapist and you know more about how to handle the addiction than the therapist.
Yeah.
Because until you live it, you really don't know it. And there were, a couple therapists that it lasted one visit because I knew I need to educate you on what to do.
Yeah, And a lot of them, and like I said earlier, our literature tells us that we're uniquely qualified when no one else can help. Right. And if I went to my first 12-step meeting and there was ink blots and lab coats, I would have stole a wallet and left and just gone out and partied.
Right.
So the idea that somehow you're going to think your way out of this mess, this is a spiritual malady, and it's a spiritual solution that gets us through these things. So he was using really for 15 years. Was he living with you for that amount of time, or was he out? Was he out gone?
Off and on, off and on. And even when he was living with us, there were times where we thought everything was fine, because he would hide it, and then we wanted to believe that everything was fine. But we eventually could not let him live in our home,
Did you have to at some point do the tough love thing and just cut him loose?
We've had him arrested. We sent him to jail.
There is. I deal a lot with parents that just I tell them you got to change your locks. I can't do that, Yeah.
Well, it's crazy because you think that I would lock my front door to keep strangers out. It was my interior doors I had to lock up my things.
Yeah.
My threat of being a victim was in my own home.
Right.
I didn't have to worry about the outside world. Unfortunately, it was my son, and he stole a lot from me. I'm sure he didn't do it because he wanted to hurt me. That is the life of an addict. They don't care. They just need their next fix.
And at some point, that's exactly right. So, I speak mostly as an alcoholic. So I'm half Irish and half Irish. So I was doomed from the beginning. But we talk about the levels of addiction, right? So you have social drinkers. I hate people like that. They get on my nerves.
Oh, that's me.
And then you have binge drinkers, right? They'll go on a little binge, then they won't drink again for a year. And then you have problem drinkers in the hierarchy, and those folks can moderate or abstain given the right motivation, loss of job, family status. Then you have alcoholics, right? You have drug addicts where it does not matter what price they pay. I built a world of alcoholics and criminals and drug addicts. All my friends I had jobs where it was okay. Not okay, but everybody did it. You build an entire existence around that. So it is on that level. There is nothing human that we can do to help people. We can't force people. People call me all the time from other states and say, "Can you call my nephew?" And I said, "Give him my cell phone. He can call me." And they say, "He'll never do that." Then I can't help you because if he won't even pick up the phone, the harvest is plenty and the workers are few. And Mike will tell you, we deal with a lot of it's a never-ending supply of people that are struggling with this. Some of them have had years. I mean, my son's mother had 5 years and went back out. She was a leader in this 12-step programs, and I'd come home from work and there'd be 6 women around my pool studying the Bible or studying the big book. I wasn't even a Christian then. Now I'm a pastor.
Right, and it's as you're mentioning the different levels of drinkers, right? This is news to you, but when I'm running a group or a session at All In Solutions, I use you as an example. So when I'm trying to teach these people who are in treatment the difference between an alcoholic and a social drinker, right, I always tell them to picture the most normal person that they can think of, right, like that can have a drink or two and be able to put it down. And I always say, like, well, I think of my mom. Like, she can go to Chili's and have a margarita, and then that's the end of her night, and then she wakes up the next morning and everything's normal. Whereas me, if I go to Chili's and have a margarita, right, the next thing is cocaine, the next thing is this, next thing is this, and then the next thing I know, I'm in jail, right?
3 weeks later.
Right. So I always say, like, if you're not sure if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, picture that family member or friend who's normal, right? I say my mom. And then after she goes and has that one drink, do you think my mom wakes up in the morning thinking, where's the rest of that margarita?
Yeah, where did I hope they didn't
No.
pour that down the sink.
Right. My mom wakes up and, it's Saturday morning and let's go in the yard and let's go, in the pool or whatever. She's not thinking about the next drink, whereas the alcoholic.
Oh, I'm getting resentment just listening to this story, bro.
Yeah.
I have a pastor buddy that will drink a half a beer at a restaurant and get up and leave. I'm like, bro, what are you, some kind of monster? You're just going to leave that sitting there? You're trying to torture me?
Yeah.
But he just doesn't care if he drinks the whole beer or not.
Yeah.
That's bizarre to me. I never had one beer in my life. I don't think I ever did. I can never recall it anyway. So Mike goes through this process, right? Really a 15-year run, it sounds like. Mike, you tell me real quick, what brought you to recovery? I know a little bit of the story, but for folks
Sure.
that haven't watched the show before, what brought you? What gave you the idea that I've had enough? I don't want to die, or whatever motivation.
All right, so
was.
what we got a half hour, right? So, so there's a story. Okay, so I've tried. Mom's tried to save me. Dad's tried to save me. Been to jail, been to treatment, been to detox, been to boot camps, you name it. Okay. There's a story that I'm going to tell. It might get emotional, but it was the last night before I ever went and finally got right. And we had a big blowout fight. This is the moment that was enough. Okay. Big blowout fight. And my dad had picked up his phone and he was going to call. First of all, I'll get back to it. The way the whole fight started is I said, I will go to rehab if I can have $100 to go get high one last time tonight. Right? You know that story.
Yeah.
So a whole fight breaks out. My dad picks up the phone and he's ready to call 911. So I grab the phone from him and I take his phone, put it in my pocket. Mom picks up her phone and she's, no bullshit, she's calling 911. And I'll never forget when I went to grab her phone from her. I don't even know if you remember this, but I remember my fingernail catching your cheek. And I don't even know if, like, in the heat of the moment that you even remember, but I remember I just put my hands on my mother.
Right.
Over $100. And it didn't click that second, but looking back, I was like, holy crap. And I get both of their phones from them, and she proceeds to walk to the neighbor's house to call 911. This is when I know this is serious. So at the time, I'm barefoot, and I walk out of the house because she walked to the neighbor's house. Cops are coming, and I walk down the street, and I walk around the corner, and I hide in some bushes, and I watch as Pasco County sheriffs come rolling up in their driveway, and at this time I'm 31 years old,
hiding in the bushes
with no shoes on, no money, no food, and my family who's kicking me out.
Right.
And calling the cops on me. And something clicked while sitting in those bushes. I don't know if I don't think I had my God moment yet. Maybe. But something clicked that something's got to change. Because I had been doing this. This is not the first time they had called the cops. This is not the first time that there's been a fight over money. And the cops left. I don't know what was discussed. I'm sure she'll probably tell you whatever. And they left, and I went and crawled back in the back door and went to bed and woke up the next morning, and my dad was making coffee, and I told him, I said, all right, I'll go to rehab. And he's like, I don't care. Talk to your mother when she wakes up. And she woke up maybe an hour or two later, and that was when, a few hours later, I was in a van on my way to treatment.
And how old were you then? 31?
31.
And how old are you now?
Almost 30. I'll be 34 in June.
Wow. So it sounds crazy to people that don't go through or haven't been through what we've been through, and now what our families have been through as well. But even in that environment, hiding in the bushes, barefoot, with the cops at your door that your parents called, with no money, no shirt on, or whatever the story is, it didn't quite dawn on you yet, right? So it's hard for an addict or an alcoholic to realize this is not how normal people live. This is not how God designed me to live, right? So my motivation was I stopped breathing when I drank. So I knew I had to stop drinking. So I wasn't going to become a pastor. I wasn't going to go get a job or anything. I wasn't even going to stop being a criminal. I just had to stop drinking, right? Walking, maybe a month into my recovery, I'm walking into the neighborhood, which I shouldn't be walking into, but I'm sober. And it dawns on me that if I don't do the things I've done, stealing, robbing, hurting people, all those things. God forgives me right now, right? As long as I don't do it again. And I wasn't a church person at all back then. It just dawned on me, like God spoke to me. And I don't think my feet touched the ground for 2 weeks. I mean, I was smiling, holding the door open for little old ladies who I probably robbed in my neighborhood. They were probably like, what the hell's the matter with this guy? Why is he being nice? He's up to something, Yeah. So the idea that that there's just a psychic change is critical, and it's hard to understand that maybe from your side of the table, but we've had a psychic change. Something changed in us, and I don't mean that I became a pastor. I mean that I've only been saved 10 years. I've been sober 31, so it was a long process for me. But something changes in our psyche, and then all of a sudden we want to be better people. I don't even know what you would call it. So, what was it like to see the change in Mike as you went from the night with the bushes and the bare feet to the next time you saw him? How long was it, and what a difference did you see?
I'm not sure how long it was, but we made it very clear. Well, while the cops were there, we had the option to press charges, against Michael. And I know the laws in the state of Florida, and strike 3, you're out. I would be sending. I couldn't do it. If I would have pressed charges that night, I would have sent my son to prison for a long time. And even though we've sent him to jail, strike 3 would have been pretty tough. He would probably still be sitting in prison, and I couldn't do that. The cops left me their business cards, and I thought, I got to think about this. I got to pray about it. I don't think I could do that. When Michael came back in the house, his options were, Michael, I still can do that. I still can. I don't want to. I don't want to be the reason why you're in prison. But you can't stay here. So go. One thing I am grateful for that we did for Michael, and I don't think that we ever really enabled him. I mean, I didn't give him money. We didn't, sure, we provided a roof over his head. There were a lot of mistakes that, we made over time. And tough love is really tough. But you got to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to save your addict, your child, you have to do it. And as painful as it was, and I thought I could lose Michael. I may never see him again. And I know a lot of people that don't even know where their children are. They're still alive, or they think they're alive. They just they don't see them. I just know that tough love, you got to do it. And even though if I wouldn't have seen Michael, I lost Michael when he was 18.
Yeah.
The first time he took a pill. I didn't know it then, but that's when I really lost my son. So 15 years later, or however long it was just the end of my rope. I couldn't do it anymore. One thing I am glad that we did do as parents, and I know not everybody's in this position to do it, but if you're listening and you're looking for pointers, how can we save our son? You're telling us, tough love. Don't give him anything. Don't do anything for him. Of course, pray for them. Be there when they do want to come back. But if you can somehow swing it, get them health insurance. We always made sure that Michael had health insurance. Because
is that what paid for treatment ultimately?
Ultimately, it did. Because I know it could be a real financial hardship for people, but you're going to pay one way or the other. You're either going to pay when they steal from you everything that you own, your jewelry, your money, your checks, whatever. You're going to pay with
psychologically and emotionally.
All the rehabs that you're going to send him to. Are you going to pay with your son's life? And ultimately, you will pay the price. But if that insurance card, even if you get one that's got a really high deductible on it, when your addict is ready for help, if they have that card in their wallet, it will open so many doors, because it's so sad that our nation does not provide enough resources for people that want help. And when they're ready for help, when your addict comes to you and they're ready, you got to jump. You can't say, okay, well, next week we'll see what we can do.
Well, we're going to talk about that because Mike started a foundation for that very purpose. But first, I want to thank you guys for watching the Godlogic Project. As always, subscribe, share our content on social media whenever you see it. It's important that we raise awareness for the Godlogic Project through social media. It only takes a second, and it's a very big help. I want to thank folks, by the way, who are shopping on Amazon anyway. They're going to godlogicproject.com, clicking on the Amazon logo, and then shopping like they normally do. And Amazon sending a couple, 2-3% to the Godlogic Project, help pay for the cost of running this ministry and this podcast. And if there is anything that I can do personally for you guys, message me at godlogicproject.com. I will, if I don't have the resources to help, and I don't care if it's chemical addiction, spiritual addiction, any kind of debilitating obsession, anything you're going through, if you need guidance in any way, you simply need prayer, message me at godlogicproject.com. I'll get those messages. I'll reach out to you, and we'll, if I don't have the resources, I'll do my best to find those resources. That's really the gist of the point of the Godlogic Project, is to make a difference out there in real terms, in measurable terms. So I want to thank you guys for your continued support of the Godlogic Project. We're going to open up the phone lines now. Now, when I answer the phone, it gets a little awkward because I'm the engineer and the host. So if I go like this or something, then you know I'm trying to answer the phone, and we'll keep talking until someone calls. But I want to. People have already called, but I wasn't going to answer them. But now the phone lines are open, and we're going to take calls now. So if you called in and you didn't get through, call in again. We're ready for you. And so now, Mike, tell us about Ryan's Rope a little bit. Sure.
So in 2018, Ryan Bullock, a very, very close friend of mine, my mom just talking about the insurance thing and the lack of resources. You got a call coming in?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this call if you guys don't mind. Let me see if I can answer the call. Hello, caller. You're live on the Godlogic Project.
Kevin, it's Steve Sundquist. How are you?
Steve Sundquist?
Yes, sir.
You might want to turn your sound down in the background. I can hear the show in the background.
Oh, man. Sorry about that. I'm trying to participate here.
Not a problem, buddy. We know Steve Sundquist.
I can't hear Steve.
You can't hear Steve? Can you hear Steve?
Yeah.
Well, I talk to him every day, all day, so
yeah, you'd probably sick of hearing Steve, really, when it comes down to it. Steve, you are a partner both in crime and now in service with Mike Gasparino. Give us your input, buddy, on your experience being part of Mike's addiction and recovery.
So, first of all, I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to Paula. As much as I love your son and his work he does for the advocacy for people in recovery, you are also doing something for the mothers and the families out there that are struggling, seeking help. I love your constant posts that you put on Facebook, spreading awareness, and you're making a difference. So I just wanted to let you know that right now. And, I admire what you guys are doing today on Mother's Day. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that you can do, but your dedication and love for your son, it's amazing. And, as much as I was a part of Michael's struggles, I contributed to it. I'm just very grateful that we're both able to be giving back and living the life that we were always destined to live, with a loving family that we both come from. Mike and I always knew this was possible. We were just, we didn't know the way out. And throughout all those years of hurting our families, it's just a blessing to be a part of their lives today and doing the work that we do with finding our purpose, with helping other people, which has always been our purpose. It just took us being tired of being sick and tired to get to that point.
Yeah, so it is. You. By the way, Steve's been on the show with Michael a couple of times. They do a lot of work. In fact, half the time that I'm looking for resources when I get a phone call, I'm reaching out to Mike and Steve. So that's the role they're playing. So Mom, what he does all day is take phone calls from Pastor Kevin, and he's like, "Oh, how could this guy possibly have another guy to help?" So that these guys work tirelessly in the recovery community, and it really does make a tremendous difference.
Absolutely, brother.
And would you anything you'd like to say to Steve before I hang up on him? Because we talk to Steve all the time, so it's.
Steve, thank you for the Mother's Day wishes, and tell your mom Peggy Happy Mother's Day as well.
Will do.
Okay.
Mike, say goodbye to Steve.
Yeah, later, Chief. Thanks for calling.
Hey,
Love you, buddy.
see you later.
Love you, man. Thank you for calling in, bro.
Love you too, guys. Bye.
See ya. So the cool thing is, cool thing is I don't know how to use a phone. These guys have been on the show, right? And they've been I've seen them out at events too, but they kind of went through this process together. So it's very cool that Steve called and kind of support. But that is kind of what we see in the recovery community. So Mike, I've heard it said that the kind of foxhole camaraderie that is established in the recovery community, in the recovery community that's active in their recoveries, that's kind of foxhole camaraderie you only see in actively deployed military, maybe first cops and firemen and first responders, but you also see it in the recovery community. So Mike has a network of friends that are constantly working, endeavoring to kind of level the playing field and get the word out. And I probably have 60 episodes of the Godlogic Project in the books from last year, and I bet you 20 of them or 30 of them maybe are from recovery community folks. So this is
nice.
It isn't a matter of we don't have resources. It's a matter of being ready when folks reach out for the help, and that's where sometimes it gets rough. And so, Mike, you started a foundation. I'm going to put your website up on the screen, but you started a foundation. What's the backstory behind this?
Okay, so Ryan's Rope Foundation. First off, let me just say it's Ryan's Rope. A lot of people get mistaken and call it Ryan's Hope, but it's Ryan's Rope Foundation.
Ryan's Hope was a soap opera.
Yeah,
it
maybe
probably
so.
still is.
Yeah, it gets confused or whatever, but it's Ryan's Rope. So I'll give you a quick backstory. So Ryan Bullock, one of my best friends, used together, went to high school together, partied together, dated two best friends together back in high school. It's where we met. In early 2018, Ryan saw that I was starting to build a foundation of recovery. And Ryan had reached out to me. And about a week later, Ryan was now in jail, Pasco County Detention Center. And his dad called me the next day, said, hey, Ryan's in jail. He's asking me for your number. How can we help him? We got him bonded out of jail that day. And within 24 hours, he was on the road down to South Florida to the halfway house that I was running at the time. He did well. He got about 2 or 3 months under his belt. He was thriving. But then something happened, and, he went astray, and he relapsed. Okay? Well, when you relapse, you need somewhere to go. You can't just stay at the halfway house. You need to go to detox, or you need to go to treatment or something. Well, he had no resources, so he made the decision to drive back to Newport Richey. Next morning, his dad called me, said he found him dead in his bedroom.
Right, and how old was Ryan at the time?
Ryan must have been 1 year younger than me at the time, so he was 30 or 31.
Okay, so this is years ago. This is earlier. Had you been clean yet, or you just gotten clean?
Yep,
so that's why he reached out to you?
So that's part of the reason, he knew that I was doing well, and part of the reason why I started Ryan's Rope Foundation is because I couldn't let Ryan just be a Facebook post,
right?
An RIP post, because I've forgiven myself for it now, but at the time, I felt like there was more I could have done, because I knew I knew the path, and I knew the solution that I had found. And I did everything I could to show him that. I had got him the same home group, my same sponsor. He was living at the same halfway that I was at. We were going to the same meetings. I was introducing him to all my same friends. And then he died.
Yeah.
So I felt like, well, there was something that I missed. I should have shown him this or should have shown him that. But it really,
I think if you don't feel those things, Mike, you're probably in the wrong business. So this is the only business or the only ministry where you take things so personally. So
right.
People in most ministries, we don't have a body count. I'll be honest with you. So people don't die in other ministries. There's always a situation where you think, what if I answered that phone at one time? Right. I've gone through it 100 times in the last 10 years, right. And it is. I think that you need to feel that way. When you stop feeling that way, you should probably go sell used cars, right? That you're in the wrong business. So you started Ryan's Rope Foundation, right. And so this is what I want to talk about. This is something that I try to utilize a few times a month. If the funds are available, we have this conversation once a week, probably. Right. But tell them what Ryan's Rope does, and then how we can help support Ryan's Rope.
So I'll just continue on with where I was at. So I felt like there was more that I could have done, right? Well, now Ryan's done. Ryan's dead, okay? And there's nothing I can do. Well, remember at this time my perception had started to change, and I'm having the psychic change that you talked about earlier in the show. And I said, you know what? There is something I can do. There's something that Ryan can do. We can help some people in his name. He doesn't have to be an RIP Facebook post. So I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to raise money to help people go resources, detox, halfway houses, treatment, whatever.
Something, yeah.
Right, something. So I started reaching out. All I was doing, I would make a Facebook post. Does anybody know how to start a 501c3? Does anybody know how to run a nonprofit? Does anybody know how to do this? Make a website, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I gave the concept of why I wanted to do these things, people jumped on board. The person who helped get all the 501c3 paperwork, what's her name, Mom? What's the lady's name that Luba? Wait,
Marianne.
Marianne, right? She's an attorney, and she's
CPA.
CPA, excuse me. She heard about the cause, and she's like, I can help with the paperwork. She did the paperwork.
Nice.
Somebody heard about the cause, and they're like, well, I know how to make a website. I'll help with the website. Well, and then I reached out for Bowling for Boobs. It's a local.
See, that's something I would support, buddy.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Now I'm a pastor. I would.
Right. So it's a local bowling tournament that's designed to raise money for breast cancer awareness. At the time, I remember being a part of it a few years before, and it was really cool. It raised money. We all bowled. We had fun. So I was like, well, that's what I want my first event to look like for Ryan's Rope. I want to raise money. We can bowl. It's simple. So I just Facebook messaged Bowling for Boobs on Facebook. And then somebody responded like, hi, I can help. How may I help you? And I was like, I want to do something similar to yours. And I told the story. And then Maria, incredible woman in the community. She says, well, I can help. And from there, we started to plan our first event, which was it was incredible. We raised almost $25,000. We sold out the bowling alley. Was it last June? It was last June. And from that, we were able to scholarship, I think, about a dozen people into either treatment, detox, or a halfway house.
Right.
So if you go back, Ryan didn't die for nothing.
Right.
Ryan is now helping people. The one part that Ryan lacked in his 12, because he completed his 12 steps of a 12-step program, the one piece that he was missing was going to help somebody at the end. Thought he was done. It happens, right? Well, he's not done. Ryan's still helping people to this day, even in his death.
So now he's doing his 12 steps. He's doing his service.
Yep.
So me personally, what I would like to do is reach out to local business owners. They can donate to Ryan's Rope Foundation. I know personally through my own work that this is money that is applied directly to the community. So this is a charity that's making a difference. So you've gotten support of local businesses in the past. And I want to grow that. I want to build that. So if you guys would go to RyansRopeFoundation.com, you can reach out to Mike, and you could arrange for a tax-deductible donation to this charity that is then, in turn, helping the community that you service, that you make money in, that you are a part of here in West Pasco, North Tampa, all over Florida. So this is a way not only to eliminate liabilities for your business, the people that might be driving up your insurance costs or stealing from you as employees or whatever it is, our type of work or something like the Ryan's Rope can turn these liabilities into assets. Because I know for sure, and hopefully some of my previous employers can testify to, people in recovery make some of the best employees ever. They're generally, alcoholics and drug addicts are generally very high intelligence, excellent salesmen. And they hustle. When they get sober, they in a sense they almost want to catch up. So these are folks that you donate here in 2020, in 2021, 2022. You're hiring some of the best employees available. So it's very important that something like Ryan's Rope is supported, and it's something, like I said, I try to use all the time. So I want to encourage you guys. I'm going to put the website up here again. Mike, I got you pictured in there, but it's RyansRopeFoundation.com. And they can contact you from there. And you were planning another bowling event except for the COVID thing,
Correct.
right? We talked about that a few months ago.
Correct.
So we're going to try to, when this whole thing is over, put together maybe a Christmas bowling thing or when Thanksgiving, hopefully.
When things open back
Halloween.
up, we're going to have another bowling tournament. Yeah.
Maybe we could have a Halloween costume party bowling tournament.
There it is.
And then we meant to cover this last year live on the Godlogic Project, but the equipment I ordered got back ordered and didn't come in. So
Right.
I wasn't able to go down and cover it, but we'll cover the next one live on the Godlogic Project too, and try to raise as much awareness, because I think there's a lot of charities and a lot of things that I try to help and I try to make I try to promote on either my social media or on the Godlogic Project. But this one is one that I don't just try to build up or try to promote, but I've turned to this one to help people from this community get the kind of help, the life-saving help they need. So this is if it's only for the tax deduction, you're still doing a great service. But if you want to make a difference in the community you serve as a business owner, you're missing a golden opportunity by not supporting Ryan's Rope Foundation. So I'm going to put a link for his website in the description below after the video is permanently uploaded. But I wanted to really take some time and plug that. So, Paula, now you've got Mike as a son. Now, I make fun of him, but he is pretty wonderful, you got to admit. Look at him. He's adorable, first of all.
He is.
It's great to be friends with him. And what's it like having him as a son now? Do you think now, I mean, you probably can't wait to introduce him to people, am I right?
Can I just interject before she goes on to
You're going to interrupt your own mother,
I'm
yes.
going to interrupt my own mother on Mother's Day because
You're going to get us sent to our room, bro.
It's going to lead up to exactly what she's going to say.
Okay. So you know what she's going to say
All
already.
right? Yes. So about 2 weeks before I got sober, I don't know if she even remembers this. This is going to be really dark, what I'm about to tell, but she's going to put the light on the end of it, okay? About 2 weeks before I got better, I remember her saying, Michael, about 5 years ago, I considered going to get a plot of land and a gravestone and putting your name on it and dating it back 5 years ago because you've been dead to me since, right? I remember that conversation. And I always bring that up because look at what God has done, okay? That's how she felt 2 weeks before I got better.
Yeah.
I was dead to her, right? Now things are completely 180 degrees changed. And that is not anything I did. That's not anything that my mom did. That is 100% God stepping in and saying, you know what, enough's enough. I got a plan for you. Let's carry it out. And the reason why I interjected is because now she's going to tell you what it looks like on the other side, because that was 2 weeks before I got better.
Right.
Well,
So that's a tremendous contrast, I guess, to the Mike we know today.
Yeah. And I remember telling Michael, and I'm not sure exactly how I phrased it, but I told him when he was deep in his addiction that I didn't want to, I could no longer be in his world. If he wanted to be part of my world, he needed to get clean, that I could not have nothing to do with him anymore. And it was really, I knew I needed to do that for him to get better, thinking, well, surely he's going to want to be in my world, you know. But yet for my own sanity, you know, because folks, it's tough on the people that love the addict. You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very proud of Michael where he is today, and I would be very proud to introduce him to anyone. And I have people reach out to me that do need help, you know, or they have a child that needs help. And so many people, parents, they think they're the only ones. They don't want to share their story, you know, or they don't want to. They don't want other people to know that they have they're living this. You know, it's like, oh, well, I don't want anybody to know that my son's an addict or my daughter's an addict. It's not your fault unless you are personally getting the drugs and giving them to your child. It's not your fault. You know, we do everything we can as parents to be good parents, and they're human beings. They can make their own choices, and it's unfortunate that that's how God designed us, is we have free will. I mean, look at Adam and Eve. They had the perfect world. They had the perfect father, and they still made the wrong choice.
Yep.
You know, so it's a human flaw, maybe, that we have the right to choose. And Michael made a lot of bad decisions, and I'm really happy today that he's with us, that I'm very proud of him. We have a wonderful relationship. Even when he was an addict, we had a relationship, and it wasn't wonderful. But it's so much better on this end, and I feel for all the mothers out there that are not able to celebrate Mother's Day because they buried their son. I have a very close friend who a couple years ago stood in my kitchen, and both of us made the comment about how we know one day we're likely going to bury our boys. And unfortunately for my friend, that became a reality.
Right.
And very close friend of mine. And it's very difficult. It's very sad. And I, on the other hand, am rejoicing every day that my son is alive. I still worry. Every time he comes back to Pasco County, you know, this is where his demons are.
Yeah,
this is I
tough.
worry that he can relapse, you know, because it's so powerful. But I just have to pray that he's going to be okay.
We're given a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. We play a part in that, the free will you spoke of.
Mm-hmm.
Tell a quick story.
Tell the story
about her worries about me coming back. Whatever. So I live 4 hours from here now, right? I come back all the time. Right? I come back to visit probably every 2 months, maybe even less than that. Quite often. Mother's Day, I made it back for this weekend. You know, I'm sure sometime maybe July I'll come back. Right? I come back a lot. Right.
Right.
The very first time I came back to visit was Mother's Day weekend. Very first time I came back to actually like spend some time. Right? She didn't know I was coming. I called my dad and said, hey, I'm going to surprise her. I was, 5 months sober, right? So I'm going to come back. I'm going to surprise her. I get off work late, so I probably won't get in late, Dad. You know, probably like midnight, okay? And they live in a gated neighborhood, okay? So I get to the neighborhood. It's probably even later than that. I think it's like 1 o'clock. And my dad said, like, I'll stay awake and answer the phone so you can get in the gate. Well, I pull into the gate, and, well, Dad fell asleep. So now I'm stuck at the gate. I can't get in. So I called Dad's phone maybe 4 or 5 times. He's not answering. I call Mom's phone. Now I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's, you know, the surprise is over. I'll give Mom a call and, you know, tell her I'm at the gate. So I call Mom's phone about 5 times. She doesn't answer either. She's sleeping. Eventually, somebody came in the gate and allowed me to get through, and I went inside and parked, you know, and went to bed. Well, my mom woke up Mother's Day morning at, I don't know, 7 o'clock or something, whatever, 7:30, and she checks her phone. 5 missed calls from my baby at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sure, I don't know what was going through her brain, but I'm sure I can imagine what was going through her brain.
Yeah.
And she called me, and I answered my phone, and I'm like, I'm upstairs, Mom. I'm sorry. I was trying to surprise you, you know. But I come downstairs, and tears coming to her eyes. And I'm sure she probably wanted to smack me, you know, for calling and scaring her or whatever. But that was the first time I got to come home for anything, really, you know, was
So you got clean and you're still a bad son, basically. That's what it comes down to. Well, I'm going to read some messages that we've been getting on the YouTube channel. If you guys would subscribe, ring the alert bell, and you'll be reminded every time we put up new content. That's a big help, by the way, to a ministry like mine. We have Daniela Yanez says, thank you for sharing your journey, Michael and Mom. It's so important to share your story with others. I don't know who that is, but I'm assuming you guys might. Otherwise, it's just an interested third-party person.
I know Daniela.
All right, that's awesome. And then Sandra Sicolo, great story, Michael. I probably said her name wrong. It is stories like yours and Steve's that give hope to us mothers. Nice. Keep up the good work, and may God bless you. So these are folks that are watching the show right now. In fact, we're an hour deep into this show, and they're still watching. So I'm going to open up the phone lines again.
Sure.
We missed a few calls while we were talking, so if you guys are watching, go ahead and call again. And then it begs the question then, Mom, and maybe you could field this question for me. Isn't it time Michael settle down, find a nice woman, that kind of stuff?
Well, it's got to be the right woman.
Yeah, a nice Christian girl.
Yes.
Sweep him off his feet.
You know, and he was in a relationship not too long ago, and it was somebody that I thought, oh, she's perfect, and only because she was a recovering addict too. And I think when Michael finds the right person, I almost feel like they need to be a recovered addict. Because
well, this might be the right
other.
person calling in right now. That would be nice.
What did this show just turn into?
Hello, caller. You're live on the Godlogic Project.
Hey, how you guys doing? First and foremost, happy Mother's Day to Michael's mom there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Where are you calling from?
Welcome.
South Florida?
Yeah, calling from South Florida, Boynton Beach, Florida, down here in Michael's neck of the woods.
Wow,
now.
they have the Godlogic Project in South Florida. This thing is getting big.
We've been spreading this thing all over. I've been sharing it all over Facebook.
Thank you.
You know, I believe in exactly what you guys do, and you know, that is something I believe we need to ramp up. We need to 10x that, and it's something that I believe that together, coming together and uniting as one, and you know, really there's so many people out there that need the help. There's so many people out there that don't get that second chance. And a lot like Michael, God has God has a vision for each and every one of us. And it's just a matter of where we take that vision and what we do with it. He's always in lead, and as long as we allow that to happen, amazing things can happen. And a lot like Michael, I fought with addiction myself for many, many, many years, and part of those dark moments were the blessings. And you don't know it when you're in those dark moments, but He's got you there for a reason. So I've interviewed Michael on one of our shows, and I thank Michael for that. And it's really about getting the word out there and truly helping as many people as we can help, because there's a lot of people out there that don't feel like there's hope. I've been in that place. We don't even want to make it to the next day. We would just rather let it all go, or we just rather, just rather die. And there's many people out there that are feeling that exact way. So for me, I know there's hope. There's God has given you a gift. It's just, have you found that gift yet? And now what I realize is God has given me a gift to help others find their gift. Because once you can help somebody find their gift, you can help them find their passion. And once you help somebody find their passion, things can start to change. Truly, it comes to mind, body, and spirit.
So it is a journey that that a lot of people take for granted, bro. And I'm gonna let you go, but I thank you for calling in. It's a journey that a lot of people take for granted. He hit the nail right on the head. It's a spiritual malady we have. So the drugs and the alcohol being just a symptom of whatever it is that's eating us up, and that's why there's 12 steps and not just one step. So it's so important that we have that community, that network of people that can we can push and pull each other through this recovery community, this recovery process. I'm finding now during a pandemic that there's a lot of isolation going on, and a lot of people are losing their battle with addiction, and that's been hard, hard to endure in the recovery community, and we don't know really what impact this whole thing is going to have. So I appreciate you guys calling in. I appreciate everybody being part of the show. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here in a minute, but Mom, if you had 2 minutes to tell somebody about your journey, or you got a call from a friend and they had a son that was struggling with addiction, what would you say to them?
That they're not alone, that there's always hope, and to take care of themselves. Yeah. So if you can't fill a cup from an empty vessel, right? So spiritually, somebody needs to be pouring into you that you then pour into somebody else. Right.
There is something called compassion fatigue that people in our business deal with, pastors deal with, and certainly parents and family members of people struggling in addiction deal with that compassion fatigue as well. I'm going to take one more call from North Carolina. Then, Mike, we're going to have you sign off, but hold on one second. Hello, welcome. You are live on the Godlogic Project, North Carolina. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to ask Michael's mom a couple questions, if it's okay.
Yeah, I think so.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much, because your son saved my son's life.
Amen.
And he's a really good person. He was on top of his game about helping me get my son to Florida from Asheville. But my question is for you, Mom, because I am going through what you've been through. I'm just worried right now that my son on his, I guess he's in the second step of this phase, and I'm just so scared of the relapse, because I know sometimes it's just not so easy. And I'm sorry I'm crying.
I'm right there with you.
If it wasn't for Mike, he was on top of it. My son has been doing this since he was 13 years old, and Mike was so on top of it, and I found him through my son's friend that has been friends with him since they were little. And he had Mike on the phone that night. Mike got my son, Elijah, to Florida the next day with the help of Elijah's grandmother, and he's down there right now. He's doing really well. But I'm so scared of the relapse. And I'm so scared for him to come back here and ever visit because I'm so scared of that happening to him.
And that's a real reality. Every time Michael comes, my son, first of all, happy Mother's Day to you. And I'm so glad that your son is getting the help that he needs. And I'm grateful that my son was able to help your son. Relapse is part of addiction. I can't tell you how many times Michael relapsed before he is where he is today. And even to this day, when Michael comes back to Pasco County, where his playground where he could get his fix. I remember a long time asking him, where do you get this stuff? How are you able to get these drugs? And his response was, Mom, I can have drugs delivered to my front door quicker than you can get a pizza. And it was a real reality. And unfortunately, for an addict, that will always be something that we will worry about because it's so powerful and it does happen. Your son just needs to find his place, he can't do this alone. He needs his spiritual guidance with this, and he needs to follow the 12-step program and keep people in his life clean, and he needs to help others. When he's in a position to start helping others is when he will continue on his road to recovery. And that's the best I can say. Now, you know how to get a hold of Michael. So later, if you reach out to Michael and want to get my personal phone, my phone number from him, feel free to call me. Okay, because I know this journey and how painful it is, and it's fresh for you right now. It's still relatively fresh for us. Michael's only clean for a few years, or not even a few years. And it's still something I worry about every time he comes home, every day. I worry, he has a dog that's really old, and I'm afraid that, we're going to have to say goodbye to Rusty one day. And that's going to be a really hardship for Michael to handle. And sometimes a loss will make somebody relapse. When Michael's friend Ryan died, I was so worried about Michael relapsing because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what will cause somebody to think that they can't cope on their own. So just hang in there, okay? And celebrate this Mother's Day because your son is in a good place right now and he has a chance. And you just stick with it, and God love you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I thank you for calling in, and I'm going to let you go, North Carolina, but thank you again for calling in.
Thanks, Katie.
And it is it's nice. We don't hear very often, Mike. We don't hear very often the good stories, right? So all too often if we focused on the fruit from John 15, we would have given up a long time ago. So statistically, what we do, the odds aren't great. So to every once in a while to get a story like this, and why I like guys like you and Steve in my life, and folks that haven't been around 20 or 30 years, is I can see the miracle still happening, right? And so people that can get close enough to help us are also close enough to hurt us, and that's very difficult, right? So you get attached to people in recovery that may not be there a year from now, right? So it is an absolute pleasure to have guys like you in my life and remind me why we abide in that vine and not give up.
I appreciate you too, Kevin.
Give them a couple of minutes of what's the best way to proceed if they have a family member needing help. More often than not, I find it's the family members and not the addicts reaching out to me anyway.
Sure.
How can we steer them in the right direction?
Sure. There's a couple ways, but the simplest ways are Facebook Messenger. If you want to add me, I'm Michael Gasparino. Kevin, do they see my name fully spelled out anywhere? Or
no.
Anything? Okay.
If I knew how to spell it, I could put it up there.
Sure. It's Michael, Michael, Gasparino, Gasparino. Feel free to add me on Facebook Messenger. I'll give you my phone number as well. I'll take calls and texts at any time. Area code 727-645-2015. And I'm just here, man. Like, I don't do anything special. I'm just here. My mom nailed it that I went to 15 years of college, and I didn't go to any university. I went to the School of Hard Knocks, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes me really good at my job today. Is God put me through 15 years of devastation so that I can be some kind of vessel on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Katie calling in, her son Elijah, he's an amazing young kid. If my mom gives up on me, I'm not here to be the vessel for Elijah.
Well, here's a call coming in from Tennessee. Let's see
Sure.
what they have to say. Hello, caller. You're live on the Godlogic Project. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
And are you calling from the fine state of Tennessee?
I sure am.
I actually went to East Tennessee State years ago. I loved it up there,
okay.
Johnson City.
I'm not that far east, but I'm in Knoxville, and
I love Knoxville.
well, good. We're enjoying it too. But I know Michael's my nephew, Paula's my sister. I hope I didn't wait too long to call in.
Not at all.
Okay, but I wanted to call because I think it's amazing the change in Michael. I want to say praise God. We never gave up hope. I even told Paula, I said, that's my word right now, is hope. God can change anybody's life. And Michael is doing awesome. I'll support him, support Ryan's rope. I just love him dearly, and I'm very proud of him and thankful.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. That was this has been we have a lot of emotional episodes around here, but this has been one of the most emotional episodes we've done for the host and the guest in this case.
Yeah.
And I'm a plumber, so I don't usually get emotional. Plumbers don't get emotional.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Paula and I both are pretty quick to tears, especially tender subjects, like this. But anyway, I don't know that I really have a question. I just wanted to call in and support them. I've had company here all afternoon, and I couldn't call till now. They're all gone. And I've been trying to watch off and on. I'd go in another room and watch.
Nice.
But anyway, I'm glad you took my call, and I could let them know. I tried. I'll watch the whole thing over on YouTube, later.
Well, thank you very much. Throw it up on your Facebook, and if anybody needs to see this thing, let them there's a lot of good information, hopefully, we're putting out tonight and every week on the Godlogic Project. So,
Happy Mother's Day, Aunt Sharon.
Well, I
Yeah.
will.
We
Hey,
were really
thank you,
lucky.
Michael.
My sister's church was very instrumental in praying for Michael for many, many years.
Amen.
Aw.
And
Yeah,
they
that's
know my
good.
son quite well. I mean, maybe not
I
personally,
was
but they know
always
him.
surprised. They'd ask me, "How's Michael? How's Michael?" And I thought, "Oh, you're still praying for him? Thank you." So it's been awesome.
That's
Transformation. God is good.
well. The upside is Mike doesn't know this, but I secretly have people spying on him everywhere he goes. So if I got guys with tasers. If he tries to use, he'll be knocked unconscious. And then
okay. I don't think you'll catch him doing anything but good. That's him now.
Well, I thank you so much for calling in, and thanks for being part of the show. I appreciate you.
Oh, sure. You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty. God bless.
Love you, Sharon. Bye.
Well, that's good. We're getting a lot of good phone calls for this thing.
Yeah, man.
Well, I appreciate you guys always being on the show. We're going to sign off now. If there's anything I can do for you, if you need to reach out to Michael or Paula, you can do it through the godlogicproject.com. If you need prayers, if you need some spiritual guidance, you have theological questions, you're not sure where you are with your higher power, your relationship with God, or if you have a loved one or you yourself are struggling with addiction, this is what we do all week here, both at my church and on this podcast. So if there's any way I can help you, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll find some resources one way or another to help. Again, always thank you for subscribing, for watching. That makes a big difference. Trying to build a YouTube audience is a little more work than I thought it was going to be. And so I appreciate everything you guys do. You see this stuff on social media, go ahead and share it, and let's get some awareness out for this. You got a story we can tell. You got a salvation story. You got a recovery story. You got a testimony we can share for God's glory. Message me at godlogicproject.com. I'll build a show around you. I just got a call today on a friend of mine whose son passed away from addiction, and he wants to do a show on a parent, a father losing a son. So that's going to be one of our next episodes. So I'm going to have to somehow think of a funny episode. We need to get Sunquist back in here, and we'll do I don't want to be just doom and gloom, and God is so good, and we are so blessed to live the lives we're living now. So that's it. That's the Godlogic Project for tonight. I want to thank the Gasparinos for being here. No one told you they love you today. God loves you, and so do I. Receive that. Be blessed, and we'll speak soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you for supporting the Godlogic Project. And if no one's told you they love you today, God loves you. So do I. Receive that. Be blessed. We'll speak soon. This has been a Rev Kev production. Your mileage may vary.
Shut up, Kevin.